Hello everyone, welcome to my channel.
I didn't cry when my brother's bride called me low class in front of 180 guests. I didn't even blink when she said it loudly enough for the string quartet to miss a beat, and for the videographer to pan in on my face. I just set my champagne down and counted 1, 2, 3 like I do before I cut a ribbon at any event I run. Because Brooke Harrington had no idea what I'd brought to her fairy tale reception: contracts, headshots, and a little velvet pouch she would never see coming. She thought her family's old money shine made her untouchable. She didn't know their Tiffany sparkles still had the price tags on. Ethan, the big brother who taught me to ride a bike and to keep my chin up, just stared at his shoes. Fine. If he wouldn't stand up for me, I'd stand up for the truth. And when I did, every jaw in that ballroom dropped. You learn a lot about people by how they accept flowers. Brooke didn't. The first night Ethan brought her to Sunday dinner, I showed up with sunflowers tied in twine. Mom would have loved them if Mom were still alive to set them in her cracked blue vase. Brooke glanced at the bouquet like I'd handed her a damp dish rag. "Pretty," she said, not moving. "We don't usually do rustic," Ethan coughed. "Liv, Brooke's allergic to country aesthetics," Brooke added, smile sharp as glass. She breezed past me into the dining room like she owned the lease on our childhood. I helped Dad set plates. Brooke asked Ethan, loudly, if our place had a wine cooler. "We have a fridge that hums and a freezer door that sticks." Dad poured iced tea. Brooke didn't touch it. When conversation turned to work, I mentioned a city gala I'd coordinated. Brooke lifted her phone. "Oh, you do logistics." She rolled the word on her tongue as if it tasted like cardboard. "I'm on the board of 3 nonprofits." "Which ones?" I asked. Her eyes flickered. "Private family foundations in California." She waved a manicured hand. "Real estate, old money. It's complicated." Red flag, Olivia. "You catalog details for a living. Names, dates, color palettes, the exact Pantone for the mayor's step and repeat." Brooke never named a single board. She kept saying, legacy, heritage, our circle, words without hinges. On the porch, Ethan found me refilling the tea. "She's intense, Liv. Be patient." "I'm trying." I studied my brother, the man who once taped my broken glasses together with hockey stick wrap, and tried to see what he saw. Brooke was beautiful in an expensive, brittle way, but kindness is its own kind of couture, and she didn't wear it. A week later, she forgot to invite me to a tasting because the guest list was limited to immediate family. I found out from a reel she posted crystal flutes clinking to an Edith Piaf track, captioned "Harringtons do it right." The florist in the background was the same one who sends me clearance peonies after my charity jobs. He DM'd me. Weird crowd. Felt performative? Another note from my mental file. 2 months in, Ethan canceled our Tuesday coffee. "Brooke thinks we see each other too much," he said, apologetic. "Healthy boundaries. Between siblings?" I laughed. He didn't. I told myself to be gracious. Then came the registry handbags, a coffee machine that cost more than my car's transmission, a baccarat vase labeled heirloom replacement. Replacement? For heirlooms? I almost let it go. Then Brooke cornered me at a boutique fitting, her voice dipped in honey. "We're keeping the wedding elevated. Do you own a gown that photographs well? Our photographer is very selective." "I'll manage," I said. "I always do." She patted my arm. "It's just some looks red. Budget." That was the first cut. Not deep enough to bleed, but I felt the sting. I slipped my phone into my clutch, turned on voice memos out of habit, and smiled. "Don't worry," I told her. "I know exactly how to make things look expensive." And I do. Especially when they're not. I run events like chess games. You anticipate 3 moves ahead or you lose the board. Brooke's old money story never made it past pawn. Her Instagram was new, scrubbed, populated with candid brunches featuring the same 6 adults who never hugged, just placed elbows on linen, and smirked. Her mother, Margaret, wore a necklace last season's Tiffany catalog, called the Celeste, right down to the starburst clasp I'd sourced for a museum gala donor. Heirloom, Brooke called it. My brain circled. Heirlooms don't come with current SKUs. I sent a casual text to Dr. Lauren Park, who runs credentialing at Street Jude's where I do volunteer galas. Ever heard of the Harrington Family Foundation in California? She replied with a screenshot of an empty IRS 990 search. No records, no filings, no foundation. Maybe they give quietly, Ethan offered, when I brought it up gently over pancakes. Not everything's public. Foundations file quietly or not. His smile frayed. Liv, be nice. She's under pressure. The Harringtons have standards. A week later, during a cake tasting I was allowed to attend, Brooke accidentally left her tablet unlocked. As the baker boxed samples, I glanced down and saw an email thread pinned to the top. Prestige Acting Solutions Ongoing Family Portrayal Services. My breath left me. I didn't open it. I didn't have to. 3 words, and the floor shifted under my heels. At home, I called Daniel Reed, a PI who once found a supplier skimming charity wine. I need verification, I said. Discreet. He printed headshots from an agency site. Robert Paulson, distinguished gentleman. Linda Foster, society matron. Both represented by, say it with me, Prestige. Their demo reels included a wine estate promo, shot on what looked suspiciously like a Malibu Airbnb. Maybe it's a coincidence, Ethan pleaded when I showed him a still on my phone, trying to spare his heart from whiplash. Lots of people look alike. Ethan. I zoomed in on Robert's cufflinks. The same Art Deco set I saw at the tasting, engraved RP. Coincidence doesn't buy matching props. He pushed back, then sagged. Why would she do this? Because a story is cheaper than a pedigree. I swallowed the rest. And because you wanted to believe in one. We made a deal. I'd wait. I'd give Brooke a chance to be honest. The rehearsal dinner would be my test. That night, Desert Ridge Ballroom glowed like a champagne bottle. Brooke's family drifted in on cologne and borrowed accents. I intercepted Richard at the bar. Commercial real estate? I asked, casual as citrus twist. Precisely. He lifted his old-fashioned. Northern markets. Berkeley? Marin? Napa? I kept my smile smooth. Who's your title company? Private, he said, blinking once, twice. Of course. I turned to Margaret. Love that necklace. Celeste, right? Family piece, she chirped. I leaned closer, saw the micro hallmark I knew would be there, and felt my pulse slow. Check. Brooke watched me from across the room, eyes thin as blades. Ethan's hand hovered at her elbow, conflicted. My chest hurt for him. On my way out, I brushed past Brooke's clutch, lying open on the head table. A pair of prescription bottles knocked together with a plastic clack that screamed too bright in my head. I didn't touch them. I recorded the labels in a glance the way I do table numbers at a black tie. Dr. R. Martinez, oxycodone 10 milligrams. Dr. J. Wilson, Adderall, 20 milligrams. 2 different doctors. 1 month. My stomach went cold. I texted Lauren. Hypothetical someone juggling multiple Schedule II scripts? Her reply came fast. Illegal if deceitful. Also dangerous. Be careful, Liv. I slept 3 hours. Then ironed the soft navy gown. Mom loved on me. It photographs well. So does the truth. The rehearsal dinner was a mood board. Long tapers, 12 arrangements of White Ranunculus, and a violinist playing Vivaldi, as if he charged by the Trillo. I arrived 5 minutes early and planted myself at table 12 back by the service entrance, the seat card's paperweight telling me everything about who Brooke thought I was. During toasts, Richard praised values. Margaret praised grace. Brooke praised standards, each syllable iced like a wedding cookie. Her eyes found me. Some people, she said, confuse proximity with privilege. Laughter from her side. Ethan flinched. I rose slowly. To Ethan, I said, voice even, who taught me to love puzzles. Here's to finding the last piece. My glass sang against the crystal. A few waiters smiled like they knew theater when they saw it. In the foyer after, Brooke cornered me, perfume like a moneyed fog. You're testing me. I'm listening, I said. To what? To the details you don't say. I straightened her place card with 2 fingers. Tell me about the Harrington Foundation's last filing. She blinked. Private. Private doesn't mean non-existent. Her mouth curved. You wouldn't understand how our circle works. She leaned in, sweet as a threat. Just try not to embarrass Ethan tomorrow, okay? Your dress needs steaming. I thought of Mom's navy hem under my iron a few hours earlier and felt something fierce light my ribs. I won't embarrass him, I said. I promise. I texted Daniel. Tomorrow night if needed. Bring printouts. Lauren. On call. I can speak to prescription practices if it turns ugly. Maya. Do you want me there? Me. Yes. Back of the room. Film if it's safe. Back inside. Robert corrected a waiter on glassware as if he'd Googled it in the Uber. Margaret told an invented story about a villa in Umbria and mispronounced Orvieto. I locked everything down in my mind like seating charts, because tomorrow, when Brooke lit the match, I'd be ready with water. At home, I took out a small velvet pouch Tiffany's. Inside sat a receipt, folded along its creases like a secret. Tiffany & Co. Beverly Hills. Celeste necklace. $8,000. Purchased by S. Harrington. Consulting the same Shell LLC on the acting invoices Daniel pulled. The sales associate, who knows me from charity auctions, had emailed it after my polite request for design verification. I hadn't asked for the rest, but it found me. I tucked the receipt back, checked Mom's gown again, wrote a single sentence on a post-it I stuck to my mirror. Be kind. Be surgical. Be undeniable. Sometimes restraint is heavier than revenge. I carried both to bed. Wedding day dawned like an apology, cool, clean sunlight, and a sky so blue it felt staged. I drove to the venue early, like staff. Years of running events teaches you the shape of a disaster an hour before it starts. In the bridal suite hallway, I saw the bottles again when Brooke's clutch tipped. This time, the labels flashed 3 names. My stomach tightened. Ethan's laugh echoed from inside a sound I'd known since childhood, and now heard warped, like a record left in the Sunday. Maya met me in the back corridor. You're sure? I'm sure enough to ask a question in public. I squeezed her hand. If she tells the truth, we're done. If she lies, we finish. Lauren texted. Olivia, if she's using multiple prescribers for controlled meds, it's not just unethical. It's dangerous. I can explain dosage conflicts if you need medical weight. Daniel. Actors confirmed on call sheets. They billed for family rehearsal last week. I've got headshots and the email chain you flagged. Do you want the big screen or printouts? Me. Printouts. The truth should fit in a hand. At the gazebo, Ethan looked incandescent with hope. You look beautiful, he said, kissing my cheek. Mom would've. I know. I swallowed. She would've fixed your boutonniere. My fingers did it automatically. Liv? He searched my face. Please don't. Stir. Ask me to be silent at my own funeral, I said softly. Don't ask it at yours. The ceremony moved like lace, delicate and complicated. When the officiant reached speak now, I felt the air catch, a room full of people holding one long, disobedient breath. I kept mine short. I waited. Because some truths land harder when the cake is wheeled out and the champagne's in hands. Imagine a ballroom lit like a jewel box. Imagine a woman in silk smiling like a blade. That was Brooke when she rose for her toast. To family, she said, voice syrupy. To standards. To knowing the difference between class and close enough. She let her eyes drift to me. Laughter rippled, nasty and eager. She continued. We all come from different places. Another glide toward me. Some of us learned etiquette. Some of us learned shortcuts. Ethan's hand found the back of his chair and closed. I watched the tendons in his wrists stand up like fence posts. Brooke lifted her glass. Ethan, darling, thank you for loving me well enough to rise with me. It takes courage to bring certain people into civilized spaces. She nodded at table 12. Someone near me whispered, Wow. The string quartet faltered. The videographer panned again. I heard the tiny noise a room makes when it decides to be complicit. I stood. May I? I asked. My voice was steady, the steadiness that shows up when your knees want to bail. The MC hesitated, then lowered the mic into my hand. I walked to the head table, my dress catching light like water. To Brooke, I said, smiling. Who taught me something important today? She smiled back, tight. How sweet. I turned to the guests. I run events for a living. I've learned that truth and craft share a rule. If you fake it, you will eventually drop a seam. I looked at Brooke's mother. Margaret, could I see your necklace? It's stunning. She froze. Brooke's smile thinned. Olivia, it's the Tiffany Celeste, right? I asked. Released last season. I slipped a folded paper from my clutch. I brought the purchase verification from the Beverly Hills store, helpful when insuring heirlooms. A murmur rolled the room like weather. I held the receipt so the camera could read it. S. Harrington Consulting. Date: 3 days ago. Brooke's voice pitched high. You printed a receipt? You're obsessed. I kept gentle. I like accuracy. I looked at Richard. And I love family stories. Tell us about your firm again? I've been trying to find Harrington Properties. The Secretary of State's database has nothing. IRS filings? Blank. Your foundation? Also blank. He swallowed. We keep a low profile. Lower than the law? Daniel stepped forward from the back, unobtrusive, handing me envelopes. I pulled out 2 headshots. Robert Paulson, Linda Foster. Their faces were smaller on glossy paper, but the resemblance sat like a confession. Your agents list you for distinguished gentleman and society matron. Congratulations on steady work. Gasps. Silverware chimed against plates like startled rain. Brooke laughed too loudly. You psycho. Those are lookalikes. Anyone can... I opened the second envelope and slid out a printed email chain. Prestige Acting Solutions S. Harrington Consulting. Family Portrayal, Month 3, Final Notes. I read, calm. If asked for real estate specifics, redirect to wine or travel. Avoid naming title firms. Emphasize discretion, practice or V-A-Y to pronunciation. Someone snorted. The quartet put their bows down. Ethan stared at the paper like it might bite him. Enough, Brooke hissed. You're sick. No, I said softly. I'm precise. I reached for her clutch, turned it so the label faced the camera. And since you brought my class into this, let's talk health. Are you okay? What? For the first time, fear flickered in her eyes. 2 prescribers, 2 controlled substances. I didn't list dosages. I am not a cop. If you're in pain or struggling, there's help. But shaming working people while staging a family? I shook my head. That's not class. That's costume. Brooke gripped the mic. Ethan, say something. Tell her to sit down. He didn't. His voice broke instead. Is any of this true? Her silence answered. The ballroom held its breath, then exhaled as if the truth itself took up space. Climax equals longer, sharper, with dense dialogue and sensory detail. Dr. Lauren Park stepped from the edge of the room, her hospital badge tucked away but her authority unmistakable. I'm a physician, she said, not amplifying, just letting the consonants land. I'm not here to accuse anyone, but mixing multiple prescriptions from different providers can be dangerous and, depending on circumstances, illegal. If someone needs help, this community has it. Brooke recoiled. Get out of my wedding! Brooke, I said, keeping my voice lower so it drew people forward instead of pushing them back. You could have told the truth. Ethan loves you. He would have helped. But you attacked me instead. I gestured to the staff lined up at the kitchen doors, watching, the florist clutching shears like a talisman. You attacked all of us. Us? Brooke sputtered. People who make rooms like this beautiful without needing to pretend to be someone else. Shut up, she snapped. You're jealous. Of what? I asked. The receipts? Daniel held out another sheet. Invoices, he said quietly. 3 months of day rates, 6 actors, coaching dinners, rehearsed brunch. Brooke's father stood abruptly, chair scraping. We don't have to. Her mother tugged his sleeve. Robert, she whispered, forgetting her character. Someone near the dais said, oh my God, like a prayer. Phones came up, but slower than you'd think. Even the hungry wanted to witness more than they wanted to post. There's a hush that falls when a room realizes it's in the 3rd act. Ethan's knuckles were white on his chair back. Brooke, why? She looked at him and for one flicker dropped everything. The accent, the posture, the calculation. A plain, frightened girl, stared out of a very expensive dress. Because you wouldn't have looked at me twice, she whispered. Because your sister makes everything look easy. And I wanted the world that looks easy. I wanted you, Ethan said, raw. Not a hiring decision. And what would you have done when you met my real mother in Canton and my dad in maintenance coveralls? Her smile twisted. When you saw my apartment with paint bubbles on the ceiling? You talk about real. You don't marry it. I would have taken you to breakfast at Josie's and taught you how to slap the air bubble out of a wall with a putty knife, he said. His voice cracked on breakfast. I don't know why that's what broke me, but it did. I blinked hard, then steadied. Kind, surgical, undeniable. Brooke, I said gentler. Fake family is a heavy costume. You can take it off. She glared. I'll sue you. For reading your emails. That you left open at a tasting where you invited 20 people? Daniel murmured. And for showing a receipt the boutique voluntarily verified? You can try. He didn't smile. Good PIs don't gloat. Stop, Ethan said, eyes on me. Liv, stop. The request wasn't a betrayal. It was a plea to spare what was left of a day he once wanted. I nodded. I'm done, I said. I'm done unless someone lies again. Brooke grabbed the mic. Fine. She lifted her chin, tried to reassemble herself out of bones and rage. Yes, I hired actors. It was branding. It was harmless. The harm, I said softly, is the night you told me I was budget in a store Mom loved. The harm is every time you made Ethan feel smaller to make your story bigger. The harm is a woman at table 7 whose son is 3 months clean hearing you call working families uncivilized. Table 7 was already crying, and I loved them for being brave about it. This is abuse, Brooke announced to the room. This is a witch hunt. Dr. Park folded her hands. Abuse is when the powerful grind the vulnerable. What I see is the vulnerable workers, siblings, patients, finally saying no. Silence. Even the HVAC seemed to hold a beat. Then a clatter. Brooke's clutch toppled from the head table, the bottles rolling like tiny drums. They hit a place setting and stopped, labels out. A camera lens zoomed instinctively. A waiter gasped, Jesus. Ethan's face went gray. You brought pills to our wedding? Brooke's chest heaved. For anxiety. Then own it, I said. Don't weaponize my address. She looked at me with hate so clean it almost sparkled. You will never be one of us. I took a breath. There is no us, Brooke. There's only people and what they do. Today, you lied and you hurt. You can do different. The officiant who had not signed up for any of this cleared his throat. Perhaps we should. Ethan took the ring off his finger and set it next to the bottles. The sound was so small. I will hear it for the rest of my life. There's not going to be a marriage today, he said. Somewhere in the back, a chair leg squeaked. It sounded like a house settling after a storm. Brooke didn't cry. She hardened. Everyone out. She snapped at her hired family. They were already moving. Robert no longer. Richard patted his pockets for car keys, like a man who had just remembered he was late to his real life. Brooke turned back to me. You did this. I revealed this, I said. You did it. The ballroom exhaled. Then it started to talk. Chaos doesn't look like you think. It's not screaming and plates. It's logistics, the coordinator whispered, shouting into a headset. The chef recalculating how many entrees to fire. The florist asking whether to move the arch. It's also questions that find you like rain. Guests came to me in the corridor, apologizing for laughter they hadn't meant. A teenage cousin from Brooke's side asked quietly, Is she going to be okay? I told her I hoped so and meant it. Dr. Park spoke with Brooke off to one side. I saw a hand to an elbow, the posture of somebody offering a door. Brooke shook her off. Pride is a locked room with a chandelier no one can switch on. Daniel slipped me a final summary. Shell LLCs, paid coaching brunches, a casting schedule that would have been funny if it weren't breaking my brother's heart. Ethan found me in the quiet of the service hallway, by the racks of clean plates that would not be used. His tie was crooked. He looked like a boy who'd built a fort that the tide took. I'm sorry, he said. For what? For not seeing what was staged to be seen? I straightened his tie. You wanted to love something. That's not a crime. I asked you to be quiet, and I promised I'd be kind, I said. I tried. He closed his eyes. You are. A breath. Would she have wanted? She would have hated the Tiffany, I said. She would have loved you for choosing truth. He laughed once. Awful and lovely. Of course she would. Police didn't come. This wasn't that kind of story, at least not yet. But by morning, the emails would be screenshotted, the agency tagged, the receipts memed. I hated that, and accepted it. You can't light a chandelier, and then ask the room to forget the glow. I wrote an email to the vendors. Paid in full. Tip your teams. No one's getting stiffed because 2 people broke. By Sunday, Brooke's real mother called Ethan from Ohio, voice shaking through the speaker. We didn't raise her to lie like this, she said. We lost her somewhere trying to be enough. We'll help her get help, Ethan cried after he hung up quiet, private tears that felt like the first honest thing he'd been able to do in months. On Monday, I sat with Dad, who had kept his own counsel through the storm. He peeled an orange over the sink and said, "You carried your mother's spine in there." Then he handed me a slice. It was perfect and tart and ordinary. I sucked the juice off my fingers and thought of all the small, good things that don't need a press release. 3 weeks later, I ran a city fundraiser for a clinic that treats addiction without condescension. We set the uplights low and the mics warmer than usual. At rehearsal, I kept thinking about the ballroom where truth finally sounded like itself. Ethan started going to Al-Anon. He learned to set a boundary and keep it. He came over on Thursdays with store-brand ice cream and recaps of group, men and women learning where love ends and enabling begins. I learned to listen without arranging his feelings in color order. Brooke checked into treatment, then left, then checked back in. Recovery is not a straight staircase. It's a spiral with missing steps. Dr. Park texted me sometimes. She had a good day. Sometimes. Not today, but maybe tomorrow. Hope is repetitive like that. The agency scrubbed the family package from its website. Someone still had the cached page. The internet never forgets, but people can. Ethan and I drove out to the lake one Sunday. He tossed pebbles, careful to miss the ducks. You didn't humiliate her, he said finally. She did that to herself. I know, I said. And I still wish I could have found another way. He nodded. You chose a scalpel. She brought the knives. I laughed, because sometimes a brother gets to give you a line that will hold you up when the room turns on its axis. The sun dragged a carpet of light across the water. A kid yelled for his dad. A woman opened a picnic basket like a magician's hat. At home that night, I took Mom's navy dress from its hanger and smoothed the hem. It will photograph well at the next wedding I attend someone else's, and I will dance in it without checking the exits. I think about class now, the way I think about chandeliers. Pretty, but useless if the wiring is bad. What lights a room is not crystal. It's a hand on your back, steadying you when the floor moves. It's a sister standing when a brother can't. It's a doctor stepping forward without a badge because she knows her words matter more than her title. Brooke told me I'd never be one of us. She was right. I don't belong to rooms built on make-believe. I belong to the crew who shows up early, tapes cords, sets chairs, and tells the truth even when it costs. We are not old money. We are old muscle. We hold things up. And when someone calls us low class, we don't lower our eyes. We raise the lights.